Okay, so here we are. We're at the final part of our website. After you complete this, your website is done. Next section is both the easiest and the most challenging part of the site. So let's take a look at our website as it stands. So currently we have our header, we've got jump links, we've got a mail to link, we have centered text with unique characters, we've got flow properties, we've got it all. So we have a ton of really great stuff that we've worked on this website, and hopefully you've learned a lot through this process. But we're going to work on the gallery as well, and galleries are definitely one of the most challenging parts of websites. There's all kinds of codes and apps that you can download to write this code for you, and to a certain extent that's what we're going to do today. So the challenge of this next section is not that you're going to really have to write any of your own code, but that you're going to have to look at code that you copy and paste in and try and figure it out. So this is a very realistic challenge. If you're ever coding a website, there's a good chance you're going to go get some free code online to fill in some features or scripts that you don't know how to do. So let's take a look at what we're actually going to be making. So I'm going to open this up and let's go look at my travel site. Here's my code sample. So here is my finished website. And in the previous one, I showed you a swap image gallery. I actually want to show you something a little different, and this is a lightbox gallery. So if we click it, you can see it brings up a lightbox that we can then click through our images and then exit back. So this is a little bit different, but don't worry, you're not going to have to write any of the scripts for this. You're just going to have to know where to paste them in. So here's our site now. This is what we're going to end up with. And let me show you where this code is located. So I'm going to try and provide it for you as well, but the root code is from W3 Schools. And I decided to do this because it's something that you'll have access to. It forces you to work with code you may not 100% understand, and it's something where you'll have to add some scripts, which don't worry, you don't have to edit any of this. I just thought it was a nice sort of mini challenge to kind of try out. So I'm going to walk you through every step. So the first thing is we're going to have to start copying in this code. So this is W3 Schools in the Lightbox modal gallery or modal image gallery. And if we click on theirs, we can see that theirs works just like I showed. So pretty simple. We have 3 chunks of code that we're going to have to add to our website. The first is the HTML, and this should look pretty familiar to you. It's divs, it's got classes applied, etc. The next section is our CSS, and this should look pretty familiar to you too. So these are little class rules with the dots in front, and just tons of little rules that tell different things to do different things. So display patterns, how to make things different sizes, etc. And then the final piece is adding some JavaScript. So we haven't written or looked at any script yet, but don't worry, you don't have to edit any of this. You just have to paste it in the right spot. So let's start. I want to go top to bottom, and that I actually want to start with my CSS. So because our CSS is actually in our document, let's do that first. So all we have to do is highlight all of this. Make sure you grab all of it and that you get your closing caret. Copy it, go into our document, and then in our styles, we just need to paste it in. And I'm going to paste it underneath all of my content because I don't want to kind of mix or confuse myself. And I'm going to write a comment that says gallery styles below. So that'll help me remember that anything below that is the gallery styles and anything above it is something I've written. Paste it in, and there we go. Now, right here, we've reached the end of our style tag. This is perfect. Right after that, we're going to paste our scripts. So you can see this is also sort of like a little script tag here. I'm going to grab that, grab all the way to the bottom, copy it, and then paste it underneath the styles. It cannot be inside with the styles. It needs to be under it inside the head tag. Now technically scripts you can add anywhere. You can actually add them to the body as well, but I like to keep them in the head tag with all of the other sort of behind the scenes information. So I'm going to paste that right there. And that's literally all you have to do for the script. So just make sure they're inside the head tag, but outside the styles. And so now we have those 2 things added, very, very simple, and we just have to add our HTML. So let's grab all of this, and then once I have it in there, I'm going to show you what we need to be looking at and what we need to edit in it to make it work for our website. So right to the top, copy. Let's take a look. Oh, no, we're still in the CSS. Haha, wrong spot. Okay, so here we go. I was about to say, I was like, don't say a class rule. Okay, so we grab our HTML, copy that, and now we just have to find out where we're trying to put it. And if you remember, the only blank section is our gallery section. So we can see our div right here, and then this is the closing side of the box. So I'm going to place this inside. I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and then I'm just going to paste all of that code. Now, this is a lot of divs, so I'm actually going to add a comment right here that says, this is where the gallery div closes. So this is why comments can be helpful, is if I'm just scrolling down and I see a billion divs, I'm not going to know which one goes to which. And of course I can usually click on them and it'll tell me where the other part is, etc. But it's helpful to kind of make a couple little notes so that it's instantly obvious to you when you look at it. So let's actually see what we currently have. And you're going to find out it's not going to look very good when we get there. So if we go to, this is the code sample website, so let's exit that one. And we go here, save this. You'll notice, what? Nothing's happened. I don't see anything yet. And the reason is that these divs have images in them that don't exist in our website. So there's stuff here, it's just invisible at the moment. So we have to come back and fix that, and that's where the challenge is. So let me walk you through this gallery div. So we can see we have some divs here, and this one's called row, and then we have column, 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 column. And if you remember from their example, they have 4 images, whereas we only have 3. So a good guess, based on the fact that this says image 1, 2, 3, and 4, is that these are the 4 images that we see here. So I actually only want to do 3, so I'm going to delete them. If you want to not have to delete stuff, just add a 4th image to your images folder and you'll be able to fix that. But in this case, I can see that this is the 4th column div, so I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to have to do that elsewhere. So let me actually do that now because I'm pretty familiar with what's happening. So here we can see we have another slide, and this one's called 4 of 4, and then we see image lights wide. I'm going to delete this div as well. So I'm keeping an eye on how this one looks to make sure that I'm not deleting tags I don't need to delete. I'm going to delete that one. And then I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to delete this one as well because we can see this is also image 4. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Now actually the other thing I want to edit really quickly is this. You can see it says 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4. If we look at our sample, that's up here. So we should probably correct that in this to be 3 of 3, 2 of 3, and 1 of 3. So what we just did was we just deleted the extra image. If you do not want to do that, that's perfectly fine. All you have to do is add a 4th image to your images folder. Now we have to actually start correcting what the image names are. So in this case, these little image.jpegs, I can tell just based on the fact that I practiced with this that they are the thumbnail images and that these master images are what are located right here. So this is very easy to fix. All we have to do is delete the source name and instead type images so that it goes to our images folder and thumb1.jpg. That's only if you named them the same thing I did. If your name is different, then make sure you change that. And then I can actually even just copy this, paste it right here, and just change it to thumb2. Finally, thumb3. And there we go. We should now have our thumbnails. And we'll check it. Let's check it right now and take a look. So here we have our thumbnails. They have hover properties and all of that fun stuff. So let's scroll down and let's copy that same content and put it here. Because you can see that this image 1 shared the same name as what was originally here. So now we'll just paste that, images thumb1, instead of image 2, images thumb 2, and instead of images 3, images thumb 3. So now we've corrected the two sections of that light box that had the thumbnails. The next step is that we need to change these images, because you can see this is image, nature path, wide. That's not our image. So instead, we're going to do images slash and then gallery1.jpg. And this is why good naming conventions matter, because I don't have to go even look at my website to know what the name was, because I remember the very simple names. We replace this images fjords with images gallery 2, and then this one here with images gallery 3. So let's take a look. I know this isn't going to be perfect, but it should work better now. So if we click on this and then we click, we can now see that we have images 1 of 3. We've got our master image. There's thumbnails down here, and there's a kind of a weird reason why those are doing that, but we'll try and fix that in a little bit, and we can actually flip right through. But the first thing we might notice is Trolltunga has nothing to do with this image, so we need to go find these captions and correct them. And then after we've corrected the captions, we'll correct the fact that these little guys are floating way up here. So if we scroll through and look for that word, we can probably correct the captions. But if you don't immediately see it, one thing you can do is you can hit Command F and then search for the word you're looking for. So if we look up Trolltunga, we can see it takes us right to that piece of code. So if you're ever looking for something, you can actually use the find command to search for that piece of text in your code. So if you were looking for, like, if you see an object in here that's like purple and you don't want it to be purple, you can actually search for purple and it'll take you up through the CSS to where the purple is. So now we've found our comments and we just have to quickly fix them. So for the first image, these were rice patties, so I'm going to put sunset over the rice patties. The second image were back streets of Japan, so I'm actually going to write that. And then the third image was, I think it's a temple, so we'll just put the temple grounds. Save it, and let's go back and check and see if that worked as expected. And it does. Back streets of Japan, the temple grounds, and sunset over the rice paddies is now corrected. And I can scroll back up and exit right out. So now, the only thing really left to do is kind of get a couple things corrected. One thing is this weird cutoff, and that's something in the code I wasn't able to 100% fix, but I was able to find a workaround for it. And let's see if I can remember exactly where it is. If I scroll up into the CSS styles, and I wouldn't have necessarily expected you to be able to figure this out, it took a lot of playing to kind of find out what was happening. And I had to look, and then there's a place over here. So this is modal. The modal is this pop-up doodad. So this whole little thing is the modal. If I set the height to 80, I'm not 100% sure why that fixed it, but it kind of fixed it. So we're going to just trust me on that one. I played a lot with it. Oh, and then it's not working here, but we'll figure it out. I believe, was that this place where I fixed the height? It might have been somewhere else. I'll check. Well, it worked before. We'll play with it some more and see. This is definitely not an issue of me. It's something, usually this is a problem with the overflow, but that's not the case because the overflow is set correctly in this code, so it's a mystery. We'll try and work on that, but don't stress about that. So that's one of the challenges of working with code that's not yours, is figuring out and solving some of those silly problems. But we'll come back to that. I'm going to leave it at, I think, height 80%, and we'll look into that a little bit later and see if we can fix it. But let's look back at these. So we can see our little thumbnail situation is not kind of what we want. So let's look at where we can fix that. And I know one of the first and easiest ways to fix it would just be to add padding to our pink box here, and that's what I think I'm going to do. So I'm going to scroll back up to my CSS, and I'm going to find the gallery section. So there we go, gallery section. So let's try adding a little bit of padding to the left. Padding left, and let's try, I think 350 might work. But remember, we're going to have to deduct that amount from this one. So let's try, I think I remember it being 750, 7, and then 250. Let's try this. 250 pixels. Hit enter. Ah, that's much better. So we were able to now center this section. So now let's try and move them down and decrease the size of our box. So this time, let's bring height down to 300. Oops. And let's try some padding top. And if I remember right, this kind of worked not how I expected. So let's try padding top, and let's do it at 100 pixels. And there we go. That looks a little better, but let's bring down the size a little bit more. So let's try this at 200. Ah, that doesn't look too bad. It's pretty close to centered, so I think that'll work. So you can see we did a quick little workaround just by adjusting our gallery section padding. We were able to scoot this div over and get it nice and centered. So that looks so much better. And you can see, okay, so now my 80% is working. You can see now that it's scrolling comfortably down to the bottom there. And here we go. We're able to scroll down here as well and flip through our gallery images. So that's literally all you have to do to add your gallery. I haven't been able to quite figure out how to center this section because I'm having trouble figuring out why the div won't move over if I set the size. But there's a couple complex things happening in the background of this code of things being at 100% or 50% or different kind of elements there. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. Now you'll notice one little error, but you're okay to leave this if you would like, and that's because I set this modal box, if you remember the modal is the thing, to 80%, it doesn't reach the bottom of this. It did seem to fix the scrolling issue, but now it doesn't reach the bottom. So if you don't want to do that, you can set that back to 100%. And we can now see it does reach the bottom of the window, but for some reason, the scroll or the overflow is not working correctly. That's not your fault, that's just the code itself. I may look into that and see if there's another way to fix it. Possibly adding the fourth image would solve that problem, or changing the thumbnail size. But for the most part, that should work. If this is really bothering you, you can actually just delete those thumbnails. So let's do that. Just in case you have, a little bit of perfectionism and you can't stand it, you can actually delete this caption container altogether. Now, this will delete not only the thumbnails, but also the captions because they're linked together as one thing. So let's try that. Delete, save. And then now I can see the image. There's no thumbnails, but I'm still having some of the cutoff issues where the scroll bar won't quite reach the bottom every time. So that's up to you whether you would like those thumbnails to be there or whether you think they're unnecessary and would just prefer a simple light box. So I'm going to undo that just so that I have the correct code here. Let me walk you really quickly through the code one more time, and then that will be it. So what we did is we went to W3 Schools and we copied their code from How to Lightbox Modal Image Gallery. So we copied our HTML into our gallery div. We copied the CSS into our CSS style section, and we copied the scripts underneath into their new script section. So that's right here. Then all we had to do was adjust the padding on our gallery box to move the thumbnails into place and replace the images correctly with our images. So that's all we had to do. Is we had to go from image 1, 2, 3. So here's our thumbs. Here's our main images 1, 2, and 3. And here's our thumbs again 1, 2, and 3. So a couple minor corrections and we were able to fit some very complex code into our website. So that is it. This should be your new and fabulously finished website. And hopefully you're able to give that a shot, and I guess I will help you guys catch up if you need any trouble when we get to class next week.